Alright, this is the second part of 9.3 multiplying polynomials. So here are your steps. Similar to the previous section, we're going to set up a box method. So multiply each term in the first polynomial by each term in the second polynomial, combining like terms and then putting them in standard form. So those are your 3 steps. As you view problems, just note it may have the binomial and then the trinomial, or it might have the trinomial and then the binomial. It doesn't matter. Because depending on how you set it up, we're still multiplying in the same fashion. So these are going to be a 2 by 3 grid as opposed to the 2 by 2 when we were multiplying just binomials. So you can see here I set up the 2x and the negative 3. Remember, always have that value with each one. We have a positive 4x squared, a positive x, and a negative 6. So then we go ahead and multiply. So we have the 2 and the 4. 2 times 4 would be 8. Then x and x to the second would be x to the third. Okay, 2x times x, so that would just be 2, and then x squared. Then 2 times negative 6 would give us negative 12, and then we have that x, so there's just the 1x with that one. Now we go to the second row, so I have a negative 3 times 4, that would be negative 12. Then we have that x squared, negative 3, and then negative x, so that would just be negative 3x. And then we have a negative 3 times a negative 6, so that would be a positive 18. Just remember, negative times a negative is a positive. Now we're looking at, for our like terms when we rewrite this, so you can see I have an x squared here, and an x squared here, and I also have an x term that are like. So as I go rewrite them, I'm just going to have to add these together. Use your calculator to make sure you have your signs correct. So this would be, our final answer would be 8x to the third. And then in order of operations, I'm going to write my x squared. So it's either a negative 12x squared plus 2 or a 2 minus a 12x. When you type that in your calculator, it's going to give you a negative 10x squared. So negative 10 would go be that coefficient. So now I'm looking at these two, which are like terms. So a negative 12 plus a negative 3 or a negative 12 minus the 3. Use your calculator. That's going to give you a negative 15x. And then we have a positive 18 at the end. That would be the answer for that. Alright, scroll down. Set up the box on this one. Go ahead and pause the video here and set up your terms. Okay, we have a 6n and a negative 8, so 6n, negative 8. And on the top, we have a 2n squared. We have a positive n, and we have a positive 7. So we're going to go ahead and fill in all of those boxes. 6 times 2, that gives us 12. And we have n to the third, because 2 plus n to the first power would be, 2 plus 1 is 3. Okay, 6 times, remember there's an imaginary 1 there, so that would be 6n squared. Okay, then we have 6 times 7. And again, use your calculators. If you're not sure, you can always just hop on your calculator, get 6 times 7, which is 42. So that would be 42, and then have the n, because that n goes with that. Then down here, we have a negative 8 times 2. Again, be careful with your signs. Negative times a positive equals a negative, so that would be negative 16n squared. Negative 8 times 1 would be negative 8, and then we have the n. Negative 8 times negative 7 would be a negative 56. Sorry, negative 8 times positive 7, negative 56. Use your calculators to be sure on those. Alright, now we have to combine our like terms. So if you see this, they stand out. I have a n squared, 2 n squareds, and then I also have 2 terms with just an n in there. Alright, so as these numbers get bigger, again, rely on your calculator a little bit. So I'm going to write out the first term. That would be a 12n to the third. Then I have a 6 and a negative 16, so you can do negative 16 plus 6 or 6 minus 16. So negative 16 plus 6 gives us our negative 10, so negative 10, and that's the n squared terms. Then I have a 42 minus 8 or a negative 8 plus 42. So you can do it either way. Negative 8 plus 42. And that gives us, whoops, 42. I messed up there. So negative 8 plus 42, which gives us 34. So that's going to be a positive 34n, and then the negative 56 is left over. All right, one more example. So here I didn't set up the box. Set up the box big enough so that you have room to write. If you write smaller, you can write a smaller box, but if you know you write bigger or need more space, set up a bigger box. Again, this is a 3 by 2, so it's going to look like the same, but the trinomial or the polynomial with 3 terms is listed first. So, but it doesn't really matter how we set it up. So I'm going to write my box. I know it has to be 3 by 2 still. All right, so I'm going to put my terms. I'm going to put 9y squared and a positive 2 here. Up here I have a y squared. I have a negative 1y, so negative y. I have a negative 1. Now you are going to set up your problems. Change colors here. So we have 9. Remember, these are all little 1s next to them. So when we do that multiplication, it's just you're multiplying by 1. So I can do 9 times 1, which would be 9, and then y squared times y squared. We add those together, so it'll be y to the 4th, 2 plus 2. 2 just goes with it, 2y squared. All right, 9y times negative, that would be negative 9, because 9 times negative 1 is just negative 9. Then we have 3y, so y to the 3rd. All right, if I'm doing this one with that, that becomes a negative 2y. 9 times negative 1 would just be negative 9y squared. And then 2 times negative 1 would give us negative 2. So now we're looking for our terms that have the same exponent. So as I'm looking through this, I have a 4th, I have a 3rd, I have a 2nd, I have a 2nd, 1. So it looks like these are only 2 like terms. So as I rewrite this into standard form, I'm going to start with the highest exponent and go down, but I'm going to combine these two. So this will become 9y to the 4th. Then I go to my y to the 3rd, so it'll be negative 9y to the 3rd. Now I can add these two, negative 9 plus 2, so negative 9 plus 2, that gives me negative 7, so negative 7y squared. Then I'm just going to put these two in there, negative 2y and a negative 2. So that would be my final answer. So as you're doing these problems, set up your grids. I mean, if I had a trinomial by a trinomial, I would just have an extra row down here. I don't think there's any problems like that to do, but it is the same idea.